Hi everybody, just thought I'd come in and tell you all that my new book, Releasing Janet, is coming out now towards the end of this week, actually on ebook. It'll come out in paperback and in hardback a couple of weeks later. This is the hardback, which is kind of designed more for people who perhaps struggle to read for whatever reason. Maybe you suffer from dyslexia or you just find reading a bit harder. I've been told that the print in this version is much easier to read, and I don't know whether the camera will pick that up, but yeah, so that's the hardback version. But what I wanted to tell you about is that you still have the opportunity, while we're in the pre-order stage, to get a copy of the free novella that I wrote to go along with Releasing Janet. I wrote this book in response to those of you who said you wanted to know more about Benny's dad, Ola. And the novella is called Only Ola. It's about 50 pages long, I think, somewhere around 15,000 words. And I had a lot of fun writing it. So what I thought I would do is give you a little taster for Only Ola. I'll read you the first couple of pages and give you a taster for what you'll have in store if you choose to take advantage of the pre-order and get a copy of the novella that goes with it. So here we go. A driving torrent lashed against Ola Wellender's face, plastering fine strands of blonde hair to his head as he stepped off the bus. Hunching his broad shoulders, Ola readied himself to battle the elements of a typically dreary British morning. So much for April showers. He hadn't been impressed by the English weather in the 4 years since he'd fled Denmark in 1976 as an angry and embittered 18-year-old, seeking a fresh start and a place to escape. Ola had learned to accept the constant wind and rain as an integral part of his new homeland. The Brits counted themselves lucky if they enjoyed a fortnight of warm summer sunshine, when the entire nation flocked to seaside resorts with buckets and spades and portable stereos. Ola buttoned his lightweight jacket, raising the collar as he broke into a jog. Not that the jacket afforded him much protection from the rain. His battered suede boots pounded the pavement as he squinted stoically ahead, barely noticing passers-by struggling with shopping bags and umbrellas. No doubt they longed for shelter as much as he did. If he was lucky, he might make it to work on time and avoid more of his boss's insults. Why on earth had their overmanager promoted Frank Drinkwater when everyone knew the man couldn't be trusted? Ola had enjoyed his new job for the first few months, until the previous manager had retired. Of course, he'd known that was on the cards when he'd chosen this job over stacking shelves at the greengrocer's. The chap had been well past 65 and had been showing signs of forgetfulness, which Frank loved to exploit. Ola hadn't even applied for the promotion, being a relative newcomer. Still, no one had expected Mr. Briggs to choose Frank, whose new status had quickly gone to his head. Crazy, really, because the guy was only running a petrol station, not a multinational empire. Up ahead, a young woman pushing a cumbersome pram squealed as a car skidded into a muddy puddle, sending up a shower of spray that soaked both her and her baby. "Stupid idiot," she shouted as her baby burst into tears. Ola wondered why she'd bothered. The car had already gone, its occupant blissfully ignorant of the discomfort he caused. The woman swore as her handbag slid from her shoulder. The clasp opened and its contents skidded onto the pavement. A shocking pink purse and a red lipstick bounced dangerously close to the muddy puddle. while a compact mirror and a handkerchief scattered in the opposite direction. As she bent to retrieve her belongings, the wind caught the hood of her bright blue raincoat, whipping it away to reveal a flowing mane of blonde hair. Ola was tempted to ignore her distress and continue on his way. He still had a fair distance to cover, because the petrol station was on the new industrial estate at the edge of town, and the buses didn't go that far. Arriving late would give his boss another excuse for a dig. Frank didn't hide the fact that he had no time for foreigners, stating his belief they should all go back to where they came from, to anyone unfortunate enough to be within earshot. He was a firm believer that British jobs should be kept for the British people. When the baby released another wail, a reluctant Ola stopped to help. "Thank you so much." Was the woman crying, or was her face just damp from the rain? Her piercing blue eyes locked with Ola's in gratitude. Despite her bedraggled state, she was beautiful. "You're a lifesaver." "That's everything." Ola rose and hurried on. 10 minutes later, soaked through and breathless, a furious, crimson-cheeked Frank greeted him. "One more minute and I would have offered your job to the next lucky blighter who walked in here," Frank barked, and his beer-scented breath reached Ola's nostrils. Ola had suspected the man was a heavy drinker. "And before you try it on, I don't want to hear your excuses about the late bus or the weather." Ola chose not to dignify him with a response. He hung his dripping coat on the hook near the door and took his place behind the cash register, as a cluster of teenagers from the nearby council estate came in to select an unhealthy breakfast. Having served the youths, Ola looked up as the bell above the door tinkled, and the woman he'd rescued moments earlier struggled in with her pram. "Don't bring that filthy contraption in here," Frank snapped. Ola was stunned. Frank hardly ever used such sharp tones with their customers, saving them for his underling. "I can't leave her out in the rain, Frank," the young blonde protested. "She's wet enough as it is." "What do you want?" Frank turned his back on the newcomer to restock the shelves with salt and vinegar crisps. "I need money for groceries." She wrapped her arms around her shivering body. "I gave you money yesterday." Frank turned on her with venom in his eyes. "You've been splurging again, haven't you?" So this was Frank's wife. Ola had heard he was married. Anyone having to live with this raging bull was worthy of pity. No, this time she was definitely crying. "You only gave me £2, and I needed that to settle up with the milkman." "Well, I'm not giving you any more." Frank returned to his task. "What am I supposed to do?" she wailed. "Sell some of that tat you keep buying." "Like what?" "Like that stupid ornamental fruit bowl on the coffee table," Frank harumphed. "Who on earth needs a load of fake grapes and bananas?" "I told you, I only paid 20p for that at a jumble sale." Her shoulders slumped. "I thought it was pretty, and we needed something to brighten up our living room." "You said the same thing about your new shoes and that ridiculous frilly dress you bought for the baby." Frank slammed the empty box onto the counter. "Get rid of that, Ollie." Ola had given up correcting Frank about his name, suspecting his boss was testing the waters, seeing how far he could push him. He picked the box up and carried it into the storeroom, leaving Frank to argue with his wife. As he listened to his employer's anger, squashing every one of his wife's pleas, Ola's heart went out to the woman. Rejection was something he understood, all too well. So that's a little taster for you, and you can read the rest of that book and find out what on earth is going on with Ola and Frank and what happens. If you pre-order Releasing Janet, you'll get the Oniola ebook for free. It will also be coming out on Kindle after the release date, so there'll be an opportunity to get it then. But hope you enjoyed that little reading, and thank you for listening. Bye.